Yo, how's your connection?
Heyo.
How's your connection?
Mm,
Okay.
it's fine.
So yeah, part two and it.
I'm fine.
How are you
I'm
doing?
fine too. Mm, fine too. Thanks for asking.
The original question
I'm
was
good.
how was our connection?
You first asked about the connection. I'm thinking, oh, okay. I'm just top
I
level
meant our
connection is.
connection, not the internet.
Oh, no, 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 no,
No,
no.
I'm joking. That's
Don't.
just
How do you
no.
feel
It's good. It's
about it?
good. I just want to recap quickly about what we talked about yesterday. Um, yeah.
Mm,
So again, I think what we kind of agree on is that this cancel culture and this mob culture really doesn't is not the right way to do things. Um, and there should be other better solutions, or there is better solutions that are out there, and that's kind of what we want to outline now, at least about what it is and what those options are. I would say though that, like I said again yesterday, it's very important to kind of understand where these issues come from and why people do these things, like what actually drives them to do these things in order for us to understand or to formulate a solutions. So, in saying that, again, I think I've always asked myself, like, why do people always act on impulse? Why is it like why do these things happen? Why do people go on social media and absolutely bash people? You know, why do people bully? Why do people um, do crime? You know, and once you kind of find those answers, then you can kind of formulate a plan as to how you're going to tackle it. You know, so for instance, it's like with this
yeah.
whole bullying thing, right? Like women tend to do it more viciously in terms of, you know, social media and things like we discussed yesterday, right? Whereas men tend to kind of do it more physically, right? And it, for guys, it's kind of a way to climb up a social ladder amongst men. You know, that's partly the reason why guys commit crime. You know,
Mm,
if you're at the bottom of the food chain and you have guys at the top of the food chain, the best thing to do is to corrupt the whole system, and then crime is the best corruption in that sense, because then as soon as you commit crime, you can take from the people at the top for your own self to gain, and then you kind of shift up, which is why, yeah, so that's why guys kind of tend to want to always do crimes, and it's always to try to advance, and it's effective because at the end of the day, again, it's like, well, I can get respect out of this, I can get dominance out of this, I can get dominance to do crime, but it's only effective for a short term, um, because in the medium to long term, it doesn't it's not worth it, right? You actually end up straight back into the bottom, if not lower, as in you go to jail, and then even when you come out of jail, you can't get jobs. So you're now even at a worse situation that you were in before you committed the crime. Um, and then I asked myself, why do women do this? You know, why do women like to bash and name and shame and go on social media and you know, gossip and do all sorts of things? And it's pretty much almost for the same reason. You know, that's kind of how we both genders express their aggression or um, their anger. Right? Is, well, if I can go on social media and bash people and gossip and do all sorts of stuff, that's my way of climbing up a dominance hierarchy through a certain level of corruption. You know, that's why people go out there and they bash people, is to make themselves feel better. But then you want to make those people at the top feel less of themselves, so that then you can then kind of bring that you can narrow down that margin that you guys have amongst each other. But then in the medium to long term, that doesn't work, right? Because obviously, again, it's like medium to long term, it's still about the fact that the people at the top are there because they're not because they're corrupt, but they're there because they continuously do good, they continuously are competent. So that then translates to the situations that we have as to why then people tend to do what. As soon as you understand that, then you can understand, okay, well then why then do people go on social media to go and bash people, and find gratitude in that? They really find like a sense of, I feel like this is the best thing to do. And it's because there's a short-term gratification to it. And it works. You know, it's like if I can go on social media and say something about someone and that person is thought of less than me, and then I get that satisfaction, then I'm narrowing down that margin. It works in the short term, right? It's the same thing as crime. It's like if I don't have a phone and you have a phone, I can just take your phone, and therefore I have a phone and you don't. It works in the short term, right? But then again, it's that corruption of, or that criminal corruption of, you're corrupting the system, and then as soon as that happens, that then the system then says, no, you can't do it like that. That's cheating, and then you go to jail and so on and so forth. So for the short term, it works, but for the medium to long term, it doesn't work. And especially when you're then driven by anger, that then it's like anger and impulse. That's when people just then kind of just do stuff like this. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm angry and therefore I'm justified into doing what I'm doing and bashing someone else. And then, like you say, well, you don't really think about the whole, the bigger picture, because it's then, okay, well then I'm just gonna go and I want that woman dead as well if she was responsible for killing this woman. You don't think about the implications of, well, then perhaps you're gonna go to jail, you know, and perhaps you're then becoming the perpetrator instead of the victim. You know, you don't want to think like that. You're so driven by hate and anger.
Mm. Yeah, I get you. And for me personally, as a mom, I'm also able, or I'm capable rather, of crossing that line if something is affecting one of my kids, you know, because I've been, well, one that I can most probably highlight. It was a situation where a guy from the street had now decided to reprimand my daughter, who was 6 at the time. No, she was probably 5 at the time. Hey? So it just so happened that these kids were playing with a skipping rope that my daughter owned. However, now she wanted to go home to grab a snack or whatever. So she's like, I'm not going to leave my skipping rope with the other kids. I'm going to go with it. But then that became like a tug of war, basically. Now these kids are like, no, you're not. You're still playing with it. And then it was a pull and pull situation. She gets agitated and she says, I started pushing the child that like had the most grip, because I was like, I want to go home. This is my toy. So she pushed the child, which I've obviously told her, you don't do that. You don't start a fight. But now, anyways, to cut a long story short, a man came out of a car, took my child's hand, and, you know, a few lashes, and then my child came home to me, and I could see she wanted to cry so bad. But now I'm that sort of a mom who would say, did you try to actually fight for yourself? Did you try to defend yourself before now giving up and coming to mommy? I always tell her that. I tell her never to fight boys, because I know boys are more like physically stronger. Never to fight kiddies. If the child is smaller than her, I always tell her, you don't hit kiddies. They are kids. If a kiddie hits you, you don't hit back. But if you see that it's a girl, she's most probably your age, and she hits you, then you hit back. Like, I'm not going to be that parent that's going to say, whatever happens, you just now don't retaliate. Because I feel like that also somehow it builds up anger in the child, and the child is obviously going to grow up to be a bully. Because now they've got all this anger, they take it out elsewhere. So now, anyways, the child comes, and then I see that she wants to cry so bad. I ask what happened, and she tells me, no, it's this other man. Man! You know, I'm obviously now standing up, you know. like a man. And then she says, yes. I said, no, let's go. Show me this man. And then I saw this guy, he was sitting like nicely in his car. I'm like, yeah, better. So he's like, did she tell you what happened? I said, I'm not interested. Why are you hitting my child? And he's like, what could I have done? Your child was hitting the other child and stuff, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't care. You find the parent, you report to the parent, I will hit her, but you cannot hit her. I was full on guns blazing. I was ready for a fight. And this guy didn't know how to take it because he just saw the way that I was angry, the way that I was like, I would say confident maybe, but it was just all in anger. Because even if you're Goliath, for me, if you hit my child or you harm my child, I will fight you. Yeah, but so I was like that, man. But now, I don't know, he had a certain level of fear. Firstly, he doesn't know me, he doesn't know my child. I had just moved in here at the time, because now this was 2 years ago. So I had just purchased the property and stuff, you know. So yeah, now basically, because he thought to himself, this is a troublemaker, I don't even know her, so let me just. So he starts asking where I stay. I said, I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm just asking you why you hit my child. But now, anyways, he didn't have like a valid, apart from the fact that he was saying the child was hitting the other children. So I told her, you never touch my child. And if you want to touch if you're going to tell me that you're going to touch my child again, you touch my child right now. Let's have it. You touch my child right now in front of me. We're gonna sort it out. Like, we're gonna sort it out physically. Yeah, but then he just kept quiet. So I started with, like, don't touch my child again. So for me, I'm capable of crossing those lines to infinity if it needs to reach infinity. My triggers are my kids, for me personally. So if it makes me a bad person, but if I have to do it over and over again, I would.
Yeah, you see, that's such a nice story with a lot of themes in it as well. And there's a lot of, like, for instance, the guy trying to use his emotional fortitude to go and stop something that he thinks that is bad by whatever means that he thought is right, driven by emotions and not actually going through the right routes, for example. That's one theme. And it also goes back to this whole bullying thing of, I find that I'm going to go rectify this. So I'm going to go online and I'm going to rectify by going to bash someone else instead of going through the system the way that the system's made. Like you said again, like, either going to the police if it's really something bad, or going to actually, break it up that it's there, but then go and find out, or to let the mothers know or the parents know what the deal is so that they sort it out, And then also from your part, there's a nice theme as well of, well, I'm a mother figure and I'm there to protect, and I don't want to hear from you what's going on. You've already committed something that I think that you shouldn't have never committed. So I don't even want to listen to you, and then me being there to confront you, I'm still on a point of, well, I'm going to then do anything to protect what I have. And then the guy then is sitting there thinking, well, how am I going to do this? Because even if I do want to throw hands with you, I can't, because then that creates more problems. So there's a nice theme there as well of, like, well, in instances like that, if it was a guy in a guy situation, maybe the father or whatever, an uncle or something, it could have been hands thrown. Because it's like, well, then we can fight, and then it's assault on assault. But then you get that ever so common female-male gender-based violence that's going in there as well. Of, well, look, I can't really speak to you when you get to a certain level of anger and you don't even want to listen. So I can't do anything. In my situation as a guy, I just generally throw hands. But now I can't throw hands at you. And then you know that as a woman as well, subconsciously, that, look, if this guy even tries to touch me, straight to the cops, and it's a no-brainer, regardless of whatever I say to him, regardless of however I put him down, right? So, yeah, there's a nice themes that are in that story. And it kind of goes back to again what we were saying yesterday about this whole violence thing, violence matter of how you can't really quantify emotional violence, right? Whereas physical violence is something that's really just kind of straight out there, and you can kind of go to jail for it. But then how do you then try to manage and rectify online bullying? It's kind of almost like it's up to the receiver, because I can say something to you, and if you don't take it to heart, then you don't have a case. But if you do, then you do have a case, But if I hit you, it's like, okay, that's straightforward, So I do sometimes, think or wish that all these movements, as much as they're preaching rights and rights and rights, they also kind of preach a lot of responsibility. It's very easy to say, if I got hit, then I'm the one that's the victim, or if I got bullied, I'm the one that's the victim, But then it's also like, well, I could have actually had a hand in it, in the sense of I could have said something that triggered someone, Do I take responsibility for that? Do I take responsibility for being in a situation whereby these things happen? And like I said, these movements kind of generally don't do that. That's why, for me, it always seems like it's very political. They just kind of sell you rights, and then they give you no responsibility. It's kind of like, I'll give you houses. You want 10,000 houses? Okay, perfect. Take 10,000 houses. We'll build them. We'll build 10,000 jobs. And everyone says, yay. And then 10,000 jobs are built, and 10,000 houses are built. And then after that, the people are like, okay, cool, let's go into these houses, and let's go into these jobs. And then they get there, and then the job owners are like, but you need a certificate for this. You need to actually have qualifications for this. You need to actually be signed up to get a house. You need to be have certain level of income to get a house. And it's like, oh wait, what? I thought it was just about my right as a person. It's like, yeah, well, they did create these things, but they never told you about the responsibilities that you have. So yeah, that's why with these things, it's very much like, as much as you want to teach rights and stuff, it's like, well, the responsibilities are probably just as important, if not more.
No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. And that is why you always find people saying, regardless of what the other person had done, the one that escalated it to the violent level is the one that is in the wrong. But I'm that sort of a person who will always want to bear in mind that some people are more talk and some people are more conscious.
Yeah.
They talk up until a certain level, and when they stop talking, they start being physical. So if you are going to be barking at this person continuously, and they've tried to basically dissolve this argument, but you're not interested, to a point where you are walking away from the situation because you know yourself, you're going to be physical. And this person is busy walking behind you, taunting you basically for walking away. And you're like, I'm walking away for your own safety. Hit me.
Yep.
You get such things, because they know if you do touch them, then they're going to run to the police station. And obviously the activists will always say, does it really matter that this person did this and that and that and that and that? The other person had no right to beat her. Which I do feel some type of way about it, because we are all human beings. We are in human form. We have certain levels of anger. You don't know what I've been through in life. I don't know what you've been through in life. I might have been taught to actually contain my anger and my emotions better than you have, because I don't know your upbringing. Do you get what I'm saying? So you can't rely on the fact that the justice system is going to find you as the victim and that person as the perpetrator, and then go around picking fights with people using your verbal abilities knowing that if they hit me, then I'm just gonna go and get the person arrested. So I totally agree with you with regards to the responsibilities. And I would say it's mostly in us women that we do have that sort of like superiority. I can get into your face. You know what? You're a man. Take it. You're not going to hit me back, because if you do, I'm going to get you arrested. I'm going to put you on full blast. Facebook, Twitter, they're going to know that you go around beating up women. I think we've grown a bit wiser, though, I would say, on social media even, because now we are starting to scrutinize things that are brought forward to us. Because I remember there was an incident in East London where this lady had put her bouncer on full blast, saying this bouncer had hit her. So people wanted to find out what happened. She puts the story out there saying that what had happened is she wanted to get into this club. She didn't have a mask on. So the guy said, you can't get in without a mask on. And then now she says, well, she went and looked for a handkerchief, and then she put it around her, whatever, you know, obviously this area. And then went back to try and force herself back in. And this guy said, you need to have a mask, like a proper mask. And she said, no, I don't have the 10 rand to buy the mask, because they were also selling the masks. So he felt like this guy was pushing the side business of selling the masks. So then she basically forcefully tried to push this guy out of the way. The guy just pushed back. I don't think he used much,
force.
what do you call it now? Force. You know, I don't think he used much force now, but because he was physically stronger, he could have poked her and then she could have fallen. But now she's like, you're hitting me, you're hitting me. You know, it started now being something that, okay, now this guy has hit her, blah, blah, blah. He was in the wrong. He shouldn't have touched her at all. You know what I'm saying? She brings this to social media. She wants to shame the business, wants to shame the bouncer. Bouncer should get fired, bouncer, blah, blah, blah. So people are asking her, firstly, why didn't you have a mask? No, I don't have it. Well, we are in the pandemic. You're supposed to have a mask. Oh, okay. I think I might have forgotten the mask at home. So why didn't you buy the other mask? No, they didn't get money. Look, you're getting into a place of enjoyment. You're going to buy booze there. You're telling me you don't have 10 rands to buy a mask, but you've got 500 rands maybe to buy booze? Why are you going to the club? Like, what's your purpose there in the club? So he was right. You shouldn't have been there, because you didn't have the money to like your sailor and stuff. Yo, she was upset. And then when she started lashing out that, yeah, you people, blah, 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 so you're supporting a man hitting a woman, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, bruh, you called it upon yourself. She was upset. She was like, but then basically, it never went anywhere. Never, ever went anywhere. Because she saw that she didn't get the reaction that she was looking for. Because now she wanted to make it a gender-based violence situation. It never went that far, because people of all genders told her, are you happy?
Yeah.
It ended there. So for me, it was actually quite a refreshing thing, because you had those one or two people that were like, does it really matter what she said or did to the guy? He shouldn't have hit her, blah, blah, blah. But now when she's relaying the story, you can see that she was never hit. She was just pushed, because she was trying to force her way in. So we are starting to be a bit woke.
Yeah, that's the problem with the woke culture. Yeah, that's the whole problem it's like I said, the game only works when you see yourself as the victim. You know, and you don't want to. That's how everyone has their own privileges. You know, and it's so easy for someone else to see someone else's privilege, and you neglect your own. You know, like that's a female privilege that now, with this whole gender-based violence. It's like if you're a guy and you go cry gender-based violence, you get laughed at. So that's a female privilege. And again, it's like just because you have a privilege doesn't mean it's something that's wrong. Like, you need to exploit your privileges. That's what a talent is. Like, a talent is a privilege that you have, and you want to exploit them so that it's not just good for you, but good for everyone else. But as soon as you only make it good for yourself and bad for everyone else, then it becomes a problem. And that's the whole issue that I have with all these movements. It's like, no, it's your right, and your right, and nothing else. And to hell with someone else that's not in our little group and our little corners. It's like we're gonna go and attack all of them. And then it's like, well, you actually become those people because you don't actually take responsibility for the things that you're actually doing, and you're thinking that you're right and they're wrong. And it's like, well, perhaps you can both be right. Perhaps you can both be wrong. And like again, like what you're saying, it's like when people always ask, well, does it really matter if what she said or what she did? It's like, of course it matters. Yes, for sure, he's guilty for assaulting her, but she's not exempt from what she did either. So you can both be right. Like, you can both go to jail for something. It's not like if you have a case, one person goes to jail, therefore that means that the other person doesn't. It's like, no, it's like, you can hit someone and someone else can hit you back and you both go to jail if you both open cases against each other. It's not about, oh, but he hit me more. It's like, no, it's just, that's just not the way life works. But then again, the problem with these things is that there's hardly any way to equate non-physical violence. So therefore, that's how it becomes then a woman privilege in that sense, and only in that sense, because again, if you get in that situation that you're talking about with a bouncer, it's like, well, he's gonna say, you know what, I'm a guy, I'm normally just throwing guys left, right, and center here, and society's fine with that. But as soon as I touch a woman, it's like, ooh, okay, it just goes out the roof, and then everyone comes from my head, and it's like, okay, fine, that might be a woman privilege in that sense, but that same privilege can be a disadvantage elsewhere in life, as again, it's like, it can be a disadvantage in terms of fighting with other men. It's like, well, I have a woman privilege of myself when it comes to situations like that, right? Because I can just go to the cops and guys will just get arrested just like that. But at the same time, that same privilege makes me vulnerable to a guy that's going to be really strong, because then he's really going to beat me up or even kill me, which is what happens. And that's a male privilege that they have, that then we can get physically stronger than most women. But then a disadvantage of that same privilege is that then as a result, we then end up in jail. So all of these privileges and all of these things that we have, we want to exploit them because we want to get the best out of them, but we want to do it not at the expense of other people, because then it becomes an issue, right? Like I said, again, it's like with talent. Like, you want to express your talent, and you want to you want the most talented people to do the most things, so that then everyone else can benefit. But we don't want them to do the most things so that it becomes a problem for other people. We don't want them to do that at the expense of others, because then it's not good for themselves or the community or the greater good. So yeah. So yeah, coming back to solutions for this whole social media stuff, with this bullying and the social media. Again, I was speaking about it this morning, actually, about like what the solutions could be to social media bullying, and bullying in terms of social media, and also the fact that, like, it's not necessarily the bullying that kind of drives people to murder and kill themselves, more than it is the implications of what happened. So it's when the video goes viral, it's when everyone sees, it's when you get shunned in your community or in your little groups. That's when you really feel that you're depressed and all that. So then how do we then kind of combat that? How do you then kind of teach kids the right things to do? I know.
Oh, that's a difficult one, eh? How do we teach our kids what to do? Because now the thing is, there's no manual in how you operate life in general. Well, there might be a manual. Some people may refer to the Bible as a manual. But I mean, you're not going to be biblical when you're upset. the Bible is the furthest thing rather on your mind when you're upset. You're not gonna think that, okay, I've been taught to, if I get slapped this side, I will present this side as well to be slapped, because that is one of the Bible verses, basically. Your first instinct is gonna be to most probably fight for most of the people and stuff. We can continue teaching our children on how they are supposed to react in such situations. But now my thing is, we need to also focus on the kids that are the audience, because the bullies love the audience. They get their thrill from seeing that people are watching them, putting someone into order. So let's also teach the kids that aren't necessarily in this whole incident that if someone does this, you go and find an adult that is going to try and sort out the situation before it turns physical. Don't just stand there and watch, because by you standing there and watching, you are basically empowering the bully to, yeah. So I feel like we should teach our children all these different avenues of how they can actually not be partakers in such situations. Because now you're going to get a child who's going to say, but mommy, I just stood there. I didn't hit anyone. I didn't cause trouble. I just stood there. You see. But now you could have done something. You could have gone and called for a teacher if it was at school. If it's Stratweni, you could have gone and called the closest grown-up that you could, you know, so that this thing can be sorted out before it escalates to violence. So I feel like we need to teach our kids not only the bully victim situation, however, the audience as well, because the audience can make it break the situation. Do you think if that child that hit the other one, if the other ones weren't watching, if there was no one watching, would she have now decided to now display her physical abilities and slap this other child around? I hardly ever think that would have been the situation. She might have said a few unsavory words to her, but hey, man, hey, I just walked away, I would say. But now, because there were people, most probably chanting, you know, she got the power from there to now physically assault the child, the other child. So let's focus in also ensuring that we also eliminate the audience as the parents. Okay, now grown-up bullies, that one is a difficult one, you know, because with the kids, we are the ones that have the upper hand. We can, the authority. But now, how do you reprimand someone who's seeing themselves as an adult? It's very difficult, you know. So for me personally, I'm that person. You don't come at me and you think, Bana, I'm just going to ignore you. You come at me, I will tell you what's due to you, and then we can have it. But now I'm going to have the last word. Like, that's how I've always been. However, now being dialogue, you know, I don't have the time. That's the thing. My time is very important to me. I've got limited time. If I see your energy and we're having a not a conversation, rather, let's say an argument. There are people that argue because they don't have the full facts of the situation. There are people that argue regardless because they don't like you. It's like someone who might not have an opinion about you because they don't know you. They don't necessarily dislike you, but they just don't know you. But then when you basically introduce yourself to them, they start getting to know you. You know, they're like, nah, he's a cool guy. But there's someone that will dislike you, and they will dislike you no matter what you freaking do. For them even. Do you get what I'm saying? So you need to actually distinguish, is this person engaging in an argument with you because they want to put their point across, they want to learn something from this, or is this person just here to attack you? And I basically look out for such red flags in an argument. If you're going to leave an argument that we are having, and then you're going to start saying, like the minute you make it about me and not the
Yeah.
situation at hand, I'm out. I'm that's how I'm training myself now. I've never been a person known to use the block button. I was the one that gets blocked the most, but now I block. I block, like I block. I don't play. I just bruh, block. So that's what I do on social media. It's very difficult in, you know, the day-to-day life because now this person is in your face. I keep quiet. They will talk. They will talk and we'll talk. I'd rather take myself away from that situation if I can. I mean, there are situations that I can't. But now my thing is, sure, dealing with adults is always something that's a bit difficult when you deal with adults that are policemen. But we try. Some of us try. You try to maneuver a way around it. I feel like the best way is just to ignore. Don't answer. Don't try to explain yourself. If you see that this person is coming at you, deprive them of your energy. Because when you deprive them of your energy, the argument gets weak.
I like those points. Very good. Yeah, very, very good. Going back to what you were talking about this whole talking about speaking to the audience as well in like a, you know, bully type situation. I think that's also kind of where what kind of happens in social media as well. You know, it's like such a tribal thing. You know, it's almost like a chant, and you're chanting around the fire, and there's two people fighting. It's kind of like what, you know, that translates into boxing modern day or MMA modern day. It's like, fight it out. Everyone's kind of watching you guys fight it out. And on social media, it's like the first time in forever where you can actually have that while you're on the phone or while you're on the internet. It's like you just feel as though these people are at your doorstep, whereas they're not physically there, but it's you feel as though that they're there, and they kind of all kind of come and attack you, you know. And again, one way to do something about that, you can just deactivate your account, you can block it, you can not respond, you can move on, you know, you can decrease the amount of time that you do spend on social media, right? And you can decrease the amount of time that you entertain such things. As soon as, like you said, you can watch those triggers. You can watch when, if you say something, like now, if we put this video out and people then start to attack me and you about certain things, it's like, okay, well, no thanks, right? It's like, okay, you're going to attack the things that we're saying, then we can speak, then we can debate about it, and then we can both come out of it positively reinforced or positively influenced by it. But if it's going to be a personal attack, it's like, well, look, it's never going to get anywhere, right? So that's one way to do it. And I think also for kids, it's very important you don't want to take kids' phones away, because then, or their internet time, because they need that. It's like there's not just negatives on the internet. They need to research stuff. They need, like, how are they going to watch things like this, you know? So they kind of need that. But at the same time, you don't want to be someone that's going to always be feeding them this, because then you can't really control what comes in. But what you can do is you can always kind of break up, like do these things where they have, like, where you limit their internet time, limit what they need to see, limit what they need when they actually get their phones, right? Because at the same time, you don't want to then just say, look, I'm not going to give you a phone, and then say to them, okay, so the world is amazing, don't look at all these negative things. And then they go out into the world, and then they experience all this nonsense, and then they're just taken aback, and it's like post-traumatic stress. You know, you want to actually empower them to say, look, the world is dangerous, and it's probably more dangerous than you even think it is, but you are equipped to handle it. You know, so I'm giving you these responsibilities. And again, it's like that whole rights and responsibilities thing. Like, I'm giving you these responsibilities of having a phone and speaking to your friends and speaking properly, you know. And then after that, it's like, I don't want you to then interact with certain things, like go to bed on time. Whenever you have to do homework, do homework. Whenever you have to do this, do that, so that they learn those rights and responsibilities early on, that, you know, you get something, you get rewarded for it. If you don't, then you don't get rewarded for it. But to just say, look, I'm going to take this away, I'm going to do it anyway. You know, kids are going to do it anyway. They're going to go to school and they need the internet. And if you take away their Facebook or their Insta or their Twitter, they're gonna get on there and say, oh, you know what, mommy said I shouldn't do it, so guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go and do it, and everyone else is doing it, and I don't want to be an outcast, so I'm gonna do it. And you find that those kids do it even more. You know, it's kind of like pastors' kids, for instance. You know, it's like, look, no, the world is amazing. Here, come sit at home and sit here, you know, and be here, and everything is perfect here. And they go out into the world and they meet all these monsters, and they're like, oh my goodness, what the? And then they get PTSD, and then they either end up spiraling down or they end up doing things worse than people that have been shown these things to begin with, you know, that there are monsters, but you're actually equipped with, you've equipped yourself with strength to take care of them. It's like, it's a dirty world out there, but you can actually make it. It's precisely what your brothers did to you. It's like, look, bro, I'm not going to tell you that guys are not going to try and hit you, or women are not going to try and hit you. So now what? What are you going to do with that? Well, then let me equip you with strength, and let me equip you with resilience. And then as soon as you know that, then you can go out into the world, and you know that there's going to be people that are going to try you there. But what are you going to do? You can't run away, because you have to run your whole life, right? So what are you going to do then? Well, then perhaps sometimes you need to run towards, you know, and you have to grow some teeth as well with that. You have to grow some anger in you. You can still be a nice person, but there's no one more stronger than a person that can be nice, but then you know that, hey, look, there's a boundary that's there, and if you overstep it, I'm going to come at you, right? So, yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest solutions as well, is to kind of, you know, watch the screen time, grow some teeth, get a bit more aggressive if you need to. You know, don't always be a pushover, because people are, you would think that people will then say, you know what, if I beat you up and you don't hit back, I'll stop. It's like, no, they'll just keep going. They just couldn't care, especially if there's a crowd. It's like, what? You're not going to hit me back? I'll just keep hitting you. You know, so you can't expect the best from people. You know, there's always going to be an element of, yeah.
Which is actually psychotic, I would say, because I know when I was growing up a fighter, not necessarily a bully, but like a fighter, I got a thrill from the other person fighting back. You're not worth my time if you're not going to fight back. It's like I'm fighting myself. So if I'm going to slap you once and slap you twice, you fold in your arms, you are basically already won the fight for me. Because you're not giving me, you're not giving me your energy. You know, the best thing you can do to someone who thrives on someone's misery is giving them the energy. I think I learned that from a very young age, that if you're not fighting back, I've already basically conquered you in a way, but now subconsciously I knew that I was actually now the weaker person, because now you've just shown me that in whatever I do, you're not going to be shaken. You're not going to fight back. You're not going to compromise the person that you are to please my urges of wanting to fight. You know, but now you see such incidences where this person is not fighting back, but the person that's now doing the assault is actually getting fired up even more. You know, it's like it's escalating. It's not getting any better. And for me, I feel like
you could look.
Because I mean,
you could say that. I mean, you could say that with a degree of truth that is perhaps very psychotic. And then some people might say, well, you know, why beat up someone and have them beat you up for you to feel as though you're beating them up, you know? So, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like, if you know that these people exist, then if you equip yourself with that strength and you don't run away from it, then you know that it doesn't matter whether they exist or not. And if this person is the person that is the type of person that'll beat you, even though you won't beat them back, it's like, you always do it if you need to. They need to know that you have teeth. It's like, again, bullies are not going to just stop bullying you. You know what I mean? If you give them their lunch every day, they'll come and take it every single day. And some people really enjoy that. Just like you said, you really enjoy when someone kind of interacts with you. And that's probably because also you do it in the sense of protection. So you would fight in the sense of trying to protect yourself. So if someone else is not trying to protect themselves, then it doesn't mean anything to you. Whereas some people just beat you up for the sake of beating you up, and there's no protection whatsoever. Then they just feel so empowered when you're always down. You know, it's like kicking a dog while he's down. It's like, well, I feel so much more empowered. And for you, it's like, no, I want to kind of teach you a lesson in this, and I want us to kind of, you know, solve this issue. Where some people say, no, I don't want to solve anything. I just want to beat you up. I just want to make you feel as low as possible so that I can then stand on top of you and be as high as possible. So for you being the person that's going to be on the other side where you're going to always be victimized, you need to also say, look, bro, like, it's like a bully. It's like exactly this. I know you're going to beat me up, but if I punch you once, at least I've said something to you. At least I've made a statement. And you can still beat me up, but now you know that it's not going to be as easy next time, and it's not going to be as easy all the time. But if you kind of just keep quiet and you wait for it, you'll just fire them up, and they'll just thinking to themselves, I can't believe the disrespect that this person's not even hitting back, and they'll get pissed off at that, you know. So sometimes running away is not the option, but you got to pick your battles as well, because you don't want to punch back towards someone that's going to absolutely annihilate you. But sometimes that's the only option that you have. So
I hear you. I hear you. And that is why I still feel to this day, I don't feel like I was a bully then, because I still wanted
fight
something
back.
to like fight back. Yeah, for me that was the thrill. Fight back. Let's have it.
But
You know. Whereas a bully feels like they want to be the one that does the hitting. They don't want the person to fight back.
Yeah, exactly. That's the bottom line. But
not any type of fighting at all. But I mean,
it's kind of like martial arts. Like the fundamental teaching of it is, we're gonna teach you how to beat up everyone in the world, and then the biggest thing that you got to learn from that is to be able to not do it. And yeah, and
discipline.
It's again the fact of like growing teeth to have someone know that, look, man, like, this person's probably not going to do this, but he's got it in him. And if you don't have it in you and no one knows that you have it in you, they'll keep pushing your buttons. You see, so that's why sometimes even on the social media, and this is why this safety culture and this whole little safe pockets is counterproductive. You know, because it's like you put someone in a safe space and you make them feel as though everything is good and dandy, and it's like, no, it's not like that. That's actually counterproductive, and it's like being overprotective of a child. Exactly what we mentioned now with like a pastor's child, generally, for example. You know, it's like you're not doing them any good. You're just shutting them down to the realities of the world, and one day or another, they're gonna have to go out there and they're gonna see monsters, and then they're going to come back at you and say, hey, what the hell? That this wasn't the way it was. So with these all safe spaces and all these things, like, no, you can protect yourself. And it's like, no, probably can't. It might be good for the short term, because then you close your eyes to dirty stuff and to bad things. But at some point, you're gonna have to come out of your shell. You're gonna have to be an individual. You're gonna have to live with other people. You know, we live in a society where there's others that are involved. You don't just do things for yourself. And then when you get exposed to these things, it becomes a massive shock to your system. So it's counterproductive. It's a good short-term goal thing of, no, I don't want you to see what that is. But it's like, okay, well, then what happens when it comes a time when you have to see it? Then what? So, no. Good stuff, man. Any other closing remarks?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I can just say continuously that we need to do better as human beings, as the society, the community, some of us as parents. We just need to do better, because right now we're not eliminating the situation. We're not getting rid of the situation. We are currently partakers. However, we think that we are now doing better in fighting it. Meanwhile, we are actually contributing to the problem. You're not going to extinguish a fire by throwing in paraffin into the fire and saying, oh, once the paraffin dies down, the fire is going to be weakened. No. You throw water if you're trying to put the fire out. But now currently we are putting in paraffin, we are putting in all these things that can make the fire grow. But we are saying that we're eliminating the fire.
Yeah.
It's not. I wish we can get to a point where we can see that bullying a bully is not the solution. We need
coming back to that before we end this, exactly why. Sorry, I think that's exactly why people like Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi are are such massive like anomalies to people, because they kind of took resentment and anger, like a general normal human emotion, to retaliate, and they said, no, cool, just can't sit down, I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, wait, this is like thousands and millions of years of engineering of the human species to always react to anger with anger, and then they were just like, nah, let's rather just do peace. And that's why it's like it's such a mind blow, because it's like the logical thing is to fight back, and it's like, yeah, but the logical thing is not to fight back with exactly what someone else is doing. It's to fight back with what you can then teach them what they should have done or what not to do. And that's kind of like where you can find peace. That's where all these quotes come from. This eye for an eye thing only makes the world blind, and this, you fighting fire with fire, and you realize that the fire department generally uses water. It's kind of like, it's difficult for a human to kind of understand that, because again, like you said, we're protective, we're driven by emotions, especially anger. You're more likely to act out of anger than you are to act out of happiness. So it's kind of innate in you. And as soon as you can kind of conquer that, the better it is for you now, midterm and the long term, and for everyone else around you. So yeah, it goes back to what we were saying now. It's like, yeah, you're gonna be overprotective, and then someone's gonna do something to your offspring, and then you're gonna retaliate and do something to their offspring. And then that person's gonna come back and then wipe out your whole family. Then you're gonna go back and wipe out their whole family, and it's a back and forth fight that will just never end, because it's just retaliation upon retaliation, and it's never actually well thought out without emotions, or with minimal emotions. And it's obviously not supposed to be easy, because it's something that's really serious and it's really about us, but you find that strength from those, you find the tools that you need from the places that you don't want to look. You find the tools in the dark that you don't like, and that kind of makes you a bit stronger. So yeah. All right, man.
Yeah. And the other thing that I was just now forgetting, now obviously like concentrating more on the parents, because we are the ones that would mold these little people to be better citizens. We also need to also normalize, which I do, like on a regular basis. I always ask my daughter, how was school? So I'm trying to get her to open up, because now I also want to know if she got like bullied and things like that. Like getting bullied is obviously part of it, but now I also want to know how the day went. And then she'll obviously now go on and on and on. So I feel like we also should do that as parents. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I feel like now, going back to the situation that kickstarted my whole thing about the schooling, maybe if this little girl went home and then the mom asked how your day was at school, she would have opened up. Then the mother would have taken charge. Don't worry, my child, I am going to have it sorted out. However, in her suicide letter, she said she felt alone. She felt like she's not going back to school anymore, blah, blah, blah. You see, that to me is a child that's not given an opportunity to reflect on the day and basically share their experiences of the day with the parents, so that they can then also let out the frustration of what had happened. So parents, for some of us that are parents, or even if you're not a parent, you might be an uncle. You might there might be a child next door even, because I mean, it helps. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes you get help from your next door neighbor and you don't get help from your own parents. How was school? What did you do today at school? Blah, blah, blah. it opens up the child. The child can actually then be able to say, this is what happened. Yeah. And then it might also help in curbing this bullying, because now if the child reports it to the parents, then obviously it can be escalated to, it can be resolved.
Yeah. Sometimes being a snitch is a good thing.
Yeah, sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah. As we grow up, we know that not all snitches
Mm.
deserve stitches.
Yeah. All
But
right.
yeah,
Good talk, man. Have a good day. Cheers.
great. Cheers.